Story that's in the Times. It's about ADHD. Talk through the reporting and then we'll have a talk more broadly, I think, about the condition.
Yes, because this headline is very, very alarmist about the middle classes getting uppity again. Surge in ADHD prescriptions driven by the middle classes. So the top line of this is that to be tested for ADHD and a range of other ailments costs a lot of money. It's about £1,000, and then you need treatment. So this is just to ascertain what's up, what's wrong if you're not feeling quite right. And studies have shown that those who are from wealthier backgrounds are bypassing their GPs because the waiting list can sometimes be quite long, and they're sorting it out themselves and then sort of bringing it back to the GP and saying, look what I've got, please help me out. But I think the deeper issue here is around overdiagnosis. So in the last couple of years, we've seen a great steep rise in this double diagnosis of autism and ADHD, and lots of people within the clinical world are saying, look, this can't be right. It can't be that suddenly all these people who are really well into adulthood suddenly have this thing wrong with them. We're being neurotic, we're being overly self-conscious, we're taking normal states of mind such as distractibility and forgetfulness, inability to concentrate, which may well be a symptom of, frankly, the digital era that we live in, and we're trying desperately to pathologise it and to give it a name and to blame someone or something for it.
Do you think that's a fair analysis? I mean, the clinics themselves, the sort of registered clinics, would say we're diagnosing absolutely properly, and I don't think anyone's questioning that. I think there's a fear that there are some unlicensed clinics that might be diagnosing where there isn't an issue. There's also the case that it's getting so much chat and coverage, you know, around. It's on TikTok all the time, isn't it? So people, perhaps there is greater awareness and people are being properly diagnosed, and they just we didn't realise that there were so many. What do you think?
I mean, I think Wes Streeting, the health secretary, got a lot of pushback several months ago when he did talk about overdiagnosis. I think it's not to say that people are misdiagnosed, but I do think that there is a point that you made, which I think is the right one, that we may be pathologising everyday behaviours and understanding issues in a medicalised way. And it is a very difficult topic to talk about because obviously people's personal health and their issues, people obviously take them very seriously and hold them very deeply and are sensitive about them. But the truth is, it is also costing a lot of money. If we actually look at, you know, disability claims, the rise has been significantly due to ADHD and claims of autism and other mental health issues as well, and it's costing the taxpayer a lot of money. And we know as well, when it comes to children, the special educational needs budget is increasing substantially. So whilst it's difficult, I think it's important that we have an honest conversation about whether we are approaching this the right way.
We were talking about it just yesterday with broadcaster former journalist Kate Silverton about the diagnosis. I think there's quite a lot of interesting data in here, but this sort of idea of people being able to pay for it. I mean, the reporting tells us here that people in North West London are 3 times as likely to be prescribed ADHD meds as those in Yorkshire. That would suggest that people in North West London have ADHD more, and that's probably not the case.
It's probably not the case, and it also points out to failings within the NHS in terms of budgeting, the kind of postcode lottery idea that if you have anything wrong with you, you can get it checked out easily and quickly if you're in a position of privilege. And yet, if there's really genuinely something wrong with you, if you're not lucky to be in that area, you'll be on that waiting list.
And you can't jump the queue by using your money. Let's move on to a story on the front of the Telegraph, and this is saying that UK drinkers are set to pay the highest wine prices.
Yeah, and this is not exactly the price of eggs or the price of milk, but I think it is still important to a lot of people that we are going to have some of the highest wine taxes in Europe. And I think we are in a cost of living crisis, and many people are enjoying a glass of wine, going to the pub. It's part of how people relax and spend time with their friends and enjoy. And it does feel like everyday things, even enjoyment, is just getting more and more expensive. And it is things like that when you want to have a break, want to have a relaxing time with your friends, and you notice it's just got a little bit more expensive. And we know that pubs are also struggling with the taxes when it comes to national insurance contributions, business rates, and broader taxes on small businesses. This is obviously going to make it even more expensive for them, and that will be passed on to the people, the customers, and they're less likely to go to those pubs. So I think that this is just showing again that times are getting really squeezed for ordinary people.
Yeah, and pubs have had a bit of extra help recently, haven't they? They've had a bit of help with their business rates, but it's still tough times for them and other hospitality venues as well.
Yeah, and it's not just pubs as well. This is just bottles of wine if you're buying them from the store.
Yeah.
Right?
This is really shocking because we expect wine to be really quite expensive. And exactly as you say, it's an allowable luxury that many people say to themselves is the one thing in their weekly shop that's really, you can't justify it except for enjoyment purposes alone. And you can always tell when something is overpriced relative to your usual spending because it hits you when you look at the bill. And that's the state we've got to all the time, everywhere. You go to a cafe and it hits you. You go to do your weekly shop and it hits you. You go and have an ordinary meal, like you have a pizza and a glass of wine and you suddenly spent nearly £100
Don't even.
on what ought to be a kind of ordinary and not needing to be a mentioned expense. And yet you're suddenly thinking, oh my God, I need to budget even around this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't I tell you how much it costs to feed a family of 3 fish and chips the other day? I was blown away when it came. Cod supper. Anyway, let's move on to a story here in the Times. But you should take us through this reporting about measles.
I don't know why I'm being the bad news health bear today, but we're talking about measles and I was talking about ADHD just 2 items ago. But measles is the canary in the coal mine, heralding the return of Victorian diseases, which sounds extremely alarmist. But if anyone casts their mind back to getting their MMR jab when they were a little kid, or if you've got kids or nieces and nephews, the uptake of these sorts of vaccines is going down. It's still quite high. It's in the mid 80% to get that first jab. But health professionals say that really to get protection and immunity, you need to be at 95%. The thing is that measles is the canary in the coal mine precisely because it's the precursor of lots of other very infectious diseases, which we tend to associate with Dickensian times, polio, diphtheria, tetanus, all of these other things that you think are olden days ailments are coming back. And measles in particular is a really tough one because it's so infectious that if you read sort of halfway down here, you can catch it if you walk into a room that someone who had measles just vacated.
Wow.
And so doctors are saying, look, this is really terrible. And they are pinning it to that pandemic era scepticism around the COVID vaccine.
Anti-vax.
They're saying, yes, they're saying undeniable that anti-vaccination sentiment has played a role. But according to this one expert, they also say that parents who work long hours, perhaps can't afford time off to get their children to an appointment, may also miss out. That might be playing into this a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to what we were just talking about previously about the cost of living crisis and people just not being able to afford it. But I do think that what you were mentioning about this kind of anti-vax sentiment is a really important one. We have seen, particularly just online, lots of misinformation about health and the rise in kind of conspiracy theories about vaccines and other things, and it has real-world consequences. As you mentioned, there needs to be a minimum level for vaccinations to be effective across an entire population. And if we are starting to dip, then that is really worrying from a long-term health perspective.
Certainly is. All right, let's move on to this in the Guardian. I'm sure it's in other places as well.
This is the release of the film about Melania Trump, the First Lady, of course. Melania, I think it is. Does what it says on the tin.
Again, everyone is called Melania.
So I think it came out last night, didn't it, in the UK?
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying that. And I think it's got
You guys weren't queuing up to get your tickies? No, OK.
I might get a ticket. I might get a ticket.
You guys are going to go.
All of the discussion about it has actually made me quite curious about what it is. But yeah, this is a new documentary about Trump's wife, Melania Trump. It's actually one of the most expensive documentaries in history. It's cost tens and tens of millions to make and also to promote. But one of the challenges is that very few people are buying tickets. Many cinemas across the country, no one's bought a ticket. It's totally empty. A few places have had one or two. And so it's not been going down particularly well so far. I'm quite curious. There's been so much coverage.
I've heard by all accounts, it's not necessarily a warts and all account. I think it might be quite a kind of glossy insight into the behind-the-scenes
The phrase warts and all is not to be used even in the same sentence
with
as
Melania.
I mean, I think it's going to be quite the opposite. It'll be airbrushed to perfection to quite a chilling degree, in fact. And I think that there are going to be a few hate watchers. There are going to be a few sort of, wow, what's it like to be the only person in the cinema watchers? But I think that we should... You know, I think we should just do it.
I like going to the movies and being the only one there. I'm not sure I'd go for this one, but there are some...
You probably will be.
He has had a fascinating life, you know, high fashion, a model, you know, married to a controversial president.
In any kind of critical detail by this Amazon vehicle that's directed by Brett Ratner.
So.
We see the controversy about this. Brett Ratner is a director who was cancelled, essentially, after the Me Too movement, and he's the person who's on board, who's directed it.
Maybe reinventing himself.
Through Melania's
I quite like
documentary.
that the Guardian's picked out a couple of things from the film that that have emerged. They say they've learnt that she hates anything baggy, and she's uninterested in catering. I like the fact that those are
Very
two of
hard-hitting.
the very things on this page.
So she puts on all the food when she has her events, does she?
I
She
didn't read
makes the
any
sandwiches
detail.
and
I
stuff.
literally read the headline. I'm so sorry.
I'm ashamed to say I read every single word of the article, so if you want a full rehash, please do. She doesn't eat or drink at any point in the documentary, and there are lots of scenes of her getting her clothes tailored, and her only note to her tailors is make it tighter. More tension.
Love it.
And
right,
so I don't think there'll be huge surprises, but if you want to watch a 6-foot-tall model walking down lots of hallways in couture, I think that's what it's going to be.
There you go.
OK, and in fact, we are
Occasionally.
talking to a film critic in the next hour about
We are.
this
We're going to
film,
talk about it
so,
even more.
Yeah, so we'll
Looking
find out more
forward
then.
to that.
In the Daily Mail next, there's a story about weight loss jabs and some suggestions of potential implications of them.
This is no surprise to me. I am completely against the kind of wanton, uncontrolled use of these flab jabs and weight loss
Well,
jabs.
you used the word. I was going to say I'm happy that they're calling them weight loss jabs, not fat jabs, as they were calling them. I think last time that you were on here.
Did I
No. The papers are calling them that, and I picked that down.
OK, so we shouldn't be supercilious about this or facetious about it, because they were originally prescribed for people who've got diabetes, and this weight loss was a side effect of that. And now people, including those who do not need to lose weight, they are doing it to be below average and below recommended weight. And of course, we're now seeing a surge in treatment necessary, for example, for gallbladder removal surgery, because of the deposits that happen in your gallbladder when you suddenly lose a huge amount of weight. This is not good for you.
And probably bound to happen that we're kind of experimenting with these are the side effects.
And I mean, look, if you have something that is a relatively quick fix, there's going to be side effects. And I think, as you mentioned, it was supposed to be for people that were severely overweight. And so you can look at the trade-offs in that particular regard. But as we've seen with a lot of celebrities using it to become pretty thin, then obviously
And just
it
want to
becomes
say,
more
because
difficult.
we're running out of time, it says in inverted commas, causing surge in gallbladder removal surgery. And they do say, clearly, this area needs further research to find out if it's causative or not. So clearly more research on that needs to be done. But the whole debate about weight loss jabs will continue. And whether or not everybody should be on them or not, that's good for us. But we haven't got time now. Anyway, lovely to see you both this morning. Thanks very much indeed for your company.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?